His skin is white just like a ghost, thick Irish roots and his blonde hair. And he sounds like a Chicago superfan, a music nerd with a collection of CDs from here to there. Yes, Andy Dare is in Chicago, interviewing and barbecuing. It's the Andy Dare Show. It's the Andy Dare Show.
Welcome to the Andy Dare Show. This is episode 144, and yes, this is the best of the new year, 2015. Every May or June, I like to take a little look back and check out our 3 highest downloaded interviews of the past 5 months. It's been a great year so far. I want to thank everybody for staying on board. It's been over 4 years that we've been doing this as the Andy Dare Show, and we've had some awesome guests. I want to thank every single guest we've had. I mean, not just the 3 highest downloaded. I want to thank everybody. Adam Casto from Nerd Table, my buddy Jesse Anderson, whole bunch of good, awesome guests. I was so honored to talk to the guys that I have for these top 3 interviews. Never thought I'd be able to speak to some of these guys, but it happened. Part of it is due to the awesomeness of social media in 2015. You know, you talk to a guy on Facebook you never met before, you've been listening to his albums for 20 years, you just send a nice little message, and a week later, I'm interviewing him. So, yeah, this could never happen in the mid-90s, and for that, I am thankful for the era we are living in. And I just want to thank everybody who's checked out the Honeycomb fanzine. If you want to become a subscriber, it's completely free. We send you one Honeycomb fanzine a month, and it's just a labor of love, way to spread the word about me, Jay Porks, Tyler Kale, Dan Corhonen, and our little podcast network called Dare Network. And if you want to subscribe, you can't like it on Facebook, you can't follow it on Twitter, you got to call up the show at 630-341-3022, leave a voicemail with your name and mailing address, and we will send one out for you. And we will keep you on the list unless you want to unsubscribe. It's been a cool little couple months here. We got a new thing, the Honeycomb fanzine. Everything is going great here at Dare Network because you guys are checking out the fanzine. You guys are supporting our sponsors. And guess what? Today we're not going to show you any commercials. We're not going to give you any of that. It's completely commercial free as a thank you to the listeners. 144 episodes in. Just a big thank you to everybody who checks us out on social media and who subscribes to the show. You can do it on iTunes. You can do it right there at andydare.com. It's so easy. You can do it on YouTube, any of those things. Want to thank you for supporting our little creative endeavor over 4 years that we've been doing it. So I'm going to keep my spiel short. I'd like to introduce you to my new friend, Vincenzo, the Italian sauce guy.
I make the sauce, my daddy make the sauce, my granddaddy make the sauce, and my great-grandpappy, when he came over on Ellis Island, he had one bottle of his sauce with him, and he took the recipe and he passed it down to us, so now I make the sauce just like he did.
And we are back. Want to thank Vincenzo for his nice little message. And I thought I would read you my latest Empty Lighthouse concert review. You can check out Empty Lighthouse. It's a cool pop culture website. Check them out at emptylighthouse.com. And yeah, last week I checked out the Manic Street Preachers. So here's my review. Published May 3rd, 2015. Concert review, Manic Street Preachers at the Metro, April 29th, 2015, by Andy Dare. Selling out soccer arenas overseas for over 2 decades, Welsh rockers Manic Street Preachers have never had much luck courting an American audience. They never had their song 2, Wonderwall, or Bittersweet Symphony, and their music reaches for an intellectualism that, let's face it, isn't likely to win over new American converts. Beginning their life as an English version of Guns N' Roses, without the misogyny and with some outspoken leftist politics, the band made tabloids overseas for their punk attitude and super dark lyrics courtesy of their wild man guitarist, Richie Edwards. When Edwards disappeared in early 1995, it was no big surprise. The man had already made headlines with issues with addiction, alcoholism, anorexia, and a long laundry list of self-destruction. This all came to a head with their 1994 classic album, The Holy Bible, dripping with so many personal demons it made In Utero look like a walk in the park. Song titles like Of Walking Abortion, PCP, and the eye-catching If White America Told the Truth for One Day Its World Would Fall Apart pretty much send an instant red flag to any working therapist. After Edwards' disappearance, the guys could have easily called it a day, but instead they kept trucking along as a three-piece. Most of the darkness left with Edwards, and the resulting new sound had one foot in gorgeous symphonic Britpop. The following albums launched Mannix into an upper stratosphere of British music, complete with hit singles, videos, awards, and sold-out tours. Somehow in America, the major labels they signed to didn't really give any effort to sell this massive band to the States. Delayed releases and no love from American MTV meant that the Mannix were doomed. Well, doomed to sell out massive arenas across Britain, Europe, and Asia for the following years. Doesn't sound so bad. Last Wednesday, the stage of Chicago's legendary Metro was adorned with military netting, giving away the fact that this wasn't going to be a Mannix Play the Hits night. In fact, the guys are celebrating, more like paying homage to, the 20th anniversary of Richie's disappearance and the release of the Holy Bible album. So Wednesday night, singer-songwriter guitarist James Dean Bradfield, drummer Sean Moore, and bassist-lyricist Nicky Wire took the stage and played the complete Holy Bible album with an intensity that would blow away 99% of the band's half their age. Nicky Wire is the larger-than-life rock star of the band, his towering frame bopping around the stage, mouthing the words off the mic like he was part of the audience. Bradfield, adorned in an old-school sailor uniform concurrent with the attire of their 1994 era, quietly impressed with his technical but not flashy guitar leads. Moore being the silent anchor of the group, bashing at his drums with a mathematical precision. The album, while being completely filled lyrically by Richie Edwards with themes of depression, paranoia, and anguish, never becomes a downer. In fact, with its chanted choruses and perfect mesh of grunge, goth, pop, and punk, the album lifts up the listener and in the end becomes actually inspiring. It's a shame that the album didn't have that effect on the lyricist. So the crowd at the Metro Thursday night was packed with respectful diehard fans. Part of it felt like the greatest funeral or memorial one could ever attend, as Nicky and James told stories of their fallen bandmate and remembered how Richie played with them on that very stage in 1992, probably pissed drunk. Laughs were had at the gallows humor. After the album wrapped with the Sex Pistols Meet the Beatles rush of PCP, Bradfield and company played some of their biggest UK hits, such as A Design for Life and If You Tolerate This, Then Your Children Will Be Next, ending the night on a nice positive note. The evening was a perfect, beautiful tribute to one of the greatest albums of the 90s, as well as one of the greatest lyric writers Britpop has ever seen. While this brief tour is already finished on this side of the pond, Manic Street Preachers Live is highly, highly recommended. All right, so I just want to thank everybody who's checked out an article over at EmptyLighthouse.com. You can find a list of all my articles over at the flagship, AndyDare.com. And like I said, we're going to keep this commercial free. Just want to play you our top 3 downloaded episodes of the year. Without further ado, my best of the new year, 2015 so far. Coming in at number 3, Telling the Sonic Truth with special guest Tad Doyle. Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out the Andy Dare Show. This is episode 137. I am joined all the way from the Pacific Northwest, Tad Doyle. How you doing, buddy?
Good. How you doing, Andy?
Hey, not bad. Getting over the flu, but yeah, it's an honor to talk to a guy who's been in the music game for, coming on 30 years. And it's also a big year for you. You just released your brand new album with the Brothers of the Sonic Cloth, new project for you. And yeah, how's that going?
Good. First of all, thanks for having me on the show. Secondly, it's going really good. We released this in February 17th worldwide with Neurot Recordings, and we sold the vinyl out in 2 days. So they're going into a second pressing already.
I saw that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, you've been slowly turning up like the sludge factor in your music for years, and this album seems to be like the finished product of that transition. Is this any way like a reaction against, Tad being signed to a major label, having to deal with all that major label nonsense for years in the 90s?
No, it's not reactionary to anything. It's really just kind of where my creative leanings have been going for quite a while. And, being a big fan of Black Sabbath, AC/DC,
sure,
Pink Floyd, and the like for many years, in my formative years, it's just kind of like that's what I'm doing now. And I'd like to say that, as far as people wanting to expect things from us, don't expect anything, because we're probably going to throw you for a loop and do something unexpected.
That's awesome. And yeah, you got a track streaming up at taddoyle.com now. It's unnamed, and it's almost like an album and a song, really. There's got to be 5 or 6 different movements, different key changes, different moods going on. Is there any contemporary bands that are influencing you nowadays? What's a new band that you've been listening to?
Well, it's probably not new to a lot of people, but it may be. I'm a big fan of Yob, of course.
Sure, yeah.
YOB. Been listening to Master Musicians of Bukkake lately.
Okay.
I listen.
Unknown to those guys, but that sounds interesting, right?
Yeah, check out their record Far West.
Okay.
It's pretty amazing.
Nice.
That's basically Randall Dunn's band. He's a Pacific Northwest engineer here and awesome musician.
Cool.
And let's see, lots of other things. A list that's just probably too deep to get into, but suffice to say, I listen to a lot of symphonic music. I love Edgard Varese, and he's one of my favorite composers ever.
Cool.
And, just a smattering of this, a smattering of that, a little bit of black metal, a little bit of pop, a little bit of rock, and some jazz, to round it out.
Sounds good. How about like the desert stoner rock style? I just recently got into Sleep after seeing them here in Chicago. It was a friend's recommendation. I had not really heard of them. I'd heard of Dope Smoker and all that stuff. But yeah, we saw them live, and it was pretty incredible. The one song lasting for 60 minutes, going into different movements, finding new territory. Are they any way of an influence?
Well, they've influenced a lot of the people who I find influential, and certainly, I love the band and respect what they do. They are definitely one of the forerunners of that, epic, for lack of a better word, structures and lengths of songs that really move and do something. And of course, big fan of Matt Pike and the like.
Sure.
Anything he's involved with. So, yeah.
And I'm guessing that you produced this yourself because you got Witch Ape Studios and stuff. Is that true?
Well, a lot of it was tracked here at Witch Ape Studio, and we decided to enlist Billy Anderson, producer-engineer, who, by coincidence, recorded the first Sleep record as well.
Nice.
He's legendary. He's been in Melvins. He's done so much stuff. And I just thought that his treatment would be a fit for what we do, and I was right. And I respect and love the guy, so he had full reign to do what he was liking to do and what he wanted to do. There was no limitations on things, and then I just helped share what my vision for the music is with him.
Cool.
So we could get something that was, pleasing to both parties. And I think the result speaks for itself. I'm really happy with the record.
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's super epic, as you said. And did you meet him back in the Tad days, or have you had a long-lasting relationship, too, with him?
I've ran into him here and there over the course of many years, and never really got to get a chance to sit down with him because he collects no dust, as we all know.
Sure.
He's very busy. And, I got to know him a lot at our mixing sessions for the record that we did over at Everything Hurts, his studio in Portland, Oregon.
Cool. Yeah, I'm a huge guy who believes in producers shaping an album. It's always interesting to try to guess who produced an album. You've obviously shared the studio with lots of legendary producers, Butch Vig, Steve Albini, Jack Endino. I've got to interview a couple of those guys, and Jay Mascis. Of those four guys, who do you think was the best fit for your sound when you were recording with them?
Well, all those guys were perfect for the time, that we were together. I'd like to mention also that there's a couple other guys that have been really influential to me in engineering and have mentored me to an extent. Kurt Ballou from Converge. Also, John Agnello, that's Angello. He was actually the guy that mixed our Inhaler record for Tad. Mascis had to go home because his father sadly passed away during the session, so he wasn't really present for it.
Oh, okay.
So it's kind of funny that he gets all that credit for quote-unquote producing that record, but when in actuality it was the band Tad with John Agnello.
Huh, okay, nice. Well, yeah, he's not known for being a producer, but he has done stuff with like Mike Watts, Firehose, and stuff like that. But it's interesting to see somebody who's known for being a lead guitarist, a band leader, taking the producer's chair. Is that something? I know that you do a lot of out of your own studio. You're producing younger bands now. Is that true?
That's correct. I love doing this. It's always been a passion of mine to be involved in the recording process. And, I'm relatively late to the game as far as things go. There's a lot of younger guys out there that are just, killing it the whole time. And so I'm a relatively newcomer to this thing. But I do have a background in analog, and I have had to record records to tape, which means that you got to get it right.
Sure.
The first time. There's none of this fix it in the mix Pro Tools bullshit that people do these days. So I think that's one of the great things that I get to bring to the table for a lot of bands is, we're not going to fix it in the mix. You're going to get it right the first time.
Well, you definitely share that with Steve Albini. Got to go to Electrical Audio and interview him. He shares a lot of your same passions, and especially when we brought in our Tascam 4-track to record the interview on. That won us points, So
I bet.
And yeah, is it something like producing a younger band? It's kind of neat because it's not all on you. It's you get to just give your 2 cents, but then pull back and let them kind of be responsible for the overall sound.
Yeah, absolutely. And I like Steve and many other engineers share this sentiment that the word producer should be thrown out the window because that's basically somebody who comes up with money for things to happen and then kind of drives it into the ground and usually ruins things.
Sure.
So I think that I'm more of an engineer and hopefully a conduit for a vision of a band and to interpret what they're trying to get at and to move forward with what they want to sound like and hopefully share my knowledge and creativity with them as well. I think that's more what I do with bands rather than I know that people like to use a word like produce, but that's an ugly name for me.
Yeah, I can agree. And hearing younger bands come out with their EPs and stuff like that, I can definitely tell when it's done on a laptop. Can definitely tell that the Brothers record is recorded. Was it analog, this whole thing, or was it bits and pieces done analog, or it just got a warm, fat sound? I love it.
It's a hybrid of both, and we did do mastering to tape with Justin Weiss out of San Francisco. He's an awesome mastering engineer, and he really did a great job on the mastering, and it is mastered to tape and then bounced back to digital. But there's something about analog tape that is just magical still to this day. Although digital is getting really good, analog is still it's easier to listen to. It's not as fatiguing, and it's certainly more pleasurable and has a longer lasting shelf life as far as I'm concerned.
I could definitely agree with that. How about like the biggest irritation that you guys had to deal with being on a major label? Did they ever want you to like play this type of music, dress this certain way? Did they want you to play up the grunge factor in your clothing and stuff?
Well, probably the most annoying thing of dealing with a major label, and certainly just big companies as well, is that they don't really seem to know what to do with a band like I was in, Tad. They really didn't know what to do with us. They didn't understand us. There was no artist development going on. It was simply them wanting to cash in and throw something out there and see if it stuck. And the plus of it was there was big money in it. The downside of it is they didn't really know what the hell they were doing to work with us, you know.
Sure. Excuse me. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely tell they were just giving you like a one-off shot. If it sticks, they'll keep running with it. But they didn't really have the faith in you guys. They didn't have the faith in Mudhoney. Didn't have the faith in a lot of these bands. Some guys were able to break through, like your Soundgardens, that kind of stuff. But for the most part, it was just, hey, we'll give you one little chance. We're not going to really push you. It's up to the public to eat it up. And, I mean, I could see how that would be kind of nerve-wracking on a young band.
And, you know, I'm fine with all that, too, with them thinking that way. However, I don't want them to waste my time because essentially, and other people who are really serious about what they do with their art, it's just kind of like insulting for them to want to shape you into something when you are what you are. And that should be the reason, like they were get with you to begin with, to put some records out.
Sure.
That's one of the things I really love about working in the past with Sub Pop and now working with especially Neurot Recordings. They're just completely understand what we're about. They're passionate and no bullshit about the music. And they share a vision with us and they've spent many, many years building this legacy for themselves, and now they get to share it with people like us and many other bands. I feel pretty stoked and blessed to be a part of it.
Hell yeah. Now that the album's out, I mean, I'm sure if you were on Elektra, they'd be like, okay, your first week's numbers aren't that great. We're done with you. But like Neurot, are they going to keep, being behind you, sending you, to different things, getting interviews, stuff like that, pushing it, make sure that it gets the ears on it? That's the most important thing, right?
Absolutely. And that's what I look forward to, is working with them on a long-term basis. I'm completely respect and love the legacy that they've built, as well as the bands that they put out. They're just amazing, One of the things I would mention is that when we worked with a major label, going back to like, do they want to shape you? One of the times when we were mixing, sending off mixes for Inhaler that was on Giant Warner, the label guy contacted our manager at the time and said, we're not hearing a single. That they weren't a pop song coming out of this, they weren't hearing It Smells Like Teen Spirit or a beat. And
sure. Yeah. You're breaking up a little bit. Hello?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, just got a couple more. Here's a couple Twitter questions I got. Yeah, this one's from Jay from Staten Island, New York City. He goes, I am social media manager for the Meat Puppets. Do you have any stories of meeting with the Meat Puppets?
I don't recall. It's many years ago if I did meet them. I don't recall meeting them, but I'm sure I did.
Nice. And I got one from Ryan from Chicago. He goes, how about the Dick Johnson Legal Defense Fund? Did any of the proceeds from 8-Way Santa or that documentary ever go to him? Is he the guy convicted of trying to blow up British Army helicopters? Does that make any sense?
It does. No, he wasn't a criminal of any sort. That was our friend, Richard Johnson, who was a close personal friend of Kurt Danielson's, and we made this this folklore story up about him. And it was more just of like a joke and having fun
Sure.
than anything. And certainly he did receive a lot of the funds because he smoked them and drank away a lot of them.
Oh, geez. Okay. Wow, nice. Okay, yeah, I mean, I just want to thank you for taking the time out. I got 2 more questions for myself, if that's cool. How about any special memories sticking out in your brain from those halcyon days spent in the van with the guys from Nirvana?
Nothing in particular sticks out. It was just fun being with them and hanging out, playing live shows with them. It was just a fun time. I like to keep that to my personal memories. I'm not the kind of guy that would write a book about it or,
Sure, yeah.
blather on about whatever they were about. But they're good people, and we're stoked to be a part of their lives when they were there, and try to stay present in the present now.
Sure. Did you get to see any of those Sonic Highways episodes with Dave Grohl?
My wife Peggy watched a lot of them. I watched a little bit of it. I watched the Chicago one, which I was very interested in.
Sure, yeah.
With Steve Albini, and a lot of the great bands that I looked up to came out of there, Naked Ray Gun and such. And,
Oh, yeah.
Dave Grohl is just an amazing talent, and I don't see how he does all these things and has all these irons and all these fires all the time. He must be very busy.
And he still seems sane, which is crazy, doing all these things. I thought it was going to be a victory lap and stuff, but I think he did a great job on it, shining a light in different, indie circles that previously people didn't really get a light shine on. So I thought it was a cool thing.
For sure. And keep in mind, when you're watching a show like that, that's through the eyes of Dave Grohl.
Sure.
There's many truths out there, and they always say that history is written by the victor.
That's true.
Don't take everything for just face value. Dig deep.
Yeah, I like that, Tad. Okay, last one here. Has social media helped or hurt rock music? Is it going back to the days where Bruce Pavitt was writing his, fanzines on Sub Pop and giving his reviews on live shows? Is that come full circle? Are we doing that now, or is it a little bit too much info sharing?
I don't need to see pictures of your cat, daily, or, things like I think there is a value to social media, and it connects people in a way that wasn't possible many years ago. When Tad the band was touring, we didn't have, the internet was just starting out, and
Sure.
We didn't have like Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, MySpace, the whole litany of social media. And I think it's good for people to be able to connect and get to know. I wish I had that resource when I was younger. I would have been completely checking out YouTube videos of Black Sabbath way back when.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But I think it's a good thing. It just depends on how it's used.
I can totally agree with that, and that's a beautiful note to end on. Brothers of the Sonic Cloth, self-titled album, out now, taddoyle.com, neurotrecordings.com, correct?
Yes, sir.
And, the first vinyl pressing sold out. There will be a second. You can get it on digital, get it on compact disc, I'm guessing?
Yeah, CDs are still available at neurotrecordings.com, and find record stores and support local record store day and get out there and buy some music.
Sure.
Also, there is standalone digital MP3s available at the Neurot Recordings website as well. So if you don't want to have a physical copy, vinyl or CD, you can always just get digital and
Sure.
Hang out that way.
Super easy. Are you going to be planning on touring off this record?
Yes, we're going to be playing some West Coast dates in May, and then we're going to be heading to Europe late June and July for festivals, do a couple weeks there, and then we're going to be doing some sporadic shows here and there around the United States. New York, Chicago are in the works, and possibly some other dates.
All right, sounds good. If you come to Chicago, I'd love to say hi. And, just want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for taking, 20 minutes out of your day. I learned a lot. I've been a fan for 20-plus years. I love what you're doing with the new sounds. And, any last words, Tad?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on the show, Andy. I really appreciate it and would look forward to meeting you as well.
Awesome. Sounds great. On behalf of Tad, this is Andy signing off for the Andy Dare Show.
Coming in at number 2, I'll Make It Clear with special guest Norman Blake from Teenage Fan Club.
Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out the Andy Dare Show. This is episode 140, and it's an honor to be joined via phone by Norman Blake. How you doing, sir?
I'm very well, thanks. Yeah, nice to be speaking with you.
Oh, definitely. I've been a fan for over 20 years now. I've been doing this show for about 5. And, the beauty of Twitter, you just ask a question, and sometimes it comes back with a positive answer. So thanks for doing it.
Oh, no, my pleasure.
And, yeah, speaking of Twitter, I looked on there and I saw that you guys are in the midst of a new album, recording a new album. And how's the progress going on that?
Yeah, it's going well. It's almost done. I was back in Glasgow just a few weeks back, putting some finishing touches, some vocals and some guitar parts down. And so really, we just have, I guess, about another couple of weeks of mixing, which the guys are doing back in Glasgow. I'm back, well, people may not know, but I live in Canada. So I've come home, and the other fellas are putting the touches to the album. So we're hopeful that we can have a September release for the record.
September release. Awesome. And are you guys just producing it by yourself?
Yeah, we did. Yeah. We recorded the bulk of it at a studio in the south of France, which was a lot of fun, as you can imagine. Some great wine, some great cheese and food, and then we put the final parts down at Raymond from the band's home. He has a studio, a small studio set up there. Basically, yes, we're kind of overseeing the whole thing ourselves.
That's awesome. How about an experience from the recording sessions that might shape the sound, or what is a previous Teenage Fan Club album that this might bring back memories of, or is it a completely new style?
Well, do you know, I think we've always felt that the environment that you record in will definitely influence, what you put down. We made an album in Chicago a few years back, our Man-Made album, and the bulk of that was done in the midst of a Chicago winter, very harsh winter. And so, I mean, I think that, and maybe lyrically, we sort of, a lot of the lyrics are sort of referencing spring and summer. So,
nice.
It was like as a sort of juxtaposition to the environment that we were recording in. But no, I think also because of the way that we write, there are 3 people writing songs. It's difficult to first, we really conceptualize when we make them. For us, it really is just a collection of songs. But the atmosphere or the mood of the record will be influenced by the environment. But I think, all of our records have really just been song-based. There's no kind of general concept behind the whole thing. So I think what it is another album like that. But eclectic in the sense that there are some sort of acoustic, sort of folkier things on there. Some songs that are more orchestrated, and even some things that are maybe sort of more kind of straight sort of punk rock songs.
Oh, nice.
So there's a good variation in styles there.
That's awesome. And yeah, I did see that when you were in Chicago, you got to work at Soma with John McIntyre from Tortoise and a whole bunch of stuff. Did you guys enjoy your time in Chicago, or as you said, it was so frigid and cold, maybe that meant that you're going to be recording in Scotland for the rest of the albums?
Well, no, that was, we had a great time. John's a great guy. We had a great time with him. And Chicago's a fantastic city, of course. In fact, I see that as a kind of rehearsal for me moving to Canada, which is pretty frigid as well. I've gotten used to that. We've had a couple of pretty harsh winters. I live about 1 hour west of Toronto, so in fact, not a million miles away from Chicago. And so no, and of course, when you're in the studio, you're spending most of the time indoors. And in terms of going to the club, well, the room is just around the corner from John's studio, so we didn't have to walk very far. We only had to spend 1 or 2 minutes in the cold weather before we could have a nice pint after the session. And actually, it became a bit of a running joke that of the session that John has. I think we dined in a different restaurant every single night. John has a couple of books full of menus, and so it was quite a good culinary experience, as well as a good recording experience.
All right, and we're coming up on the 20th anniversary of a big album for you guys. Grand Prix came out in May of '95, and that was a pretty awesome album, and it was pretty much heralded across the board. Lots of good critical acclaim, and it sold pretty well. Was there a lot of pressure to make something a little bit more approachable after the 13 release?
I'm not really sure. I think for us, we felt that with the 13 record, we hadn't really achieved what we had wanted to achieve. In that we had, when we started making that record, we had like 35 or 40 songs, and probably 35 or 40 unfinished songs, and we spent a long time making it, and the process of making that record was not a lot of fun for us in the way that the previous one had been. The Bandwagon-esque record happened really quickly because we'd had the material for some time. But with Grand Prix, I think we really wanted to get back to having, going into the studio knowing exactly what we wanted to achieve. So in that sense, it felt really good in that it was a very concise session. And I think we've been very fortunate that across the years we've been lucky to have pretty decent reviews generally. Maybe with the 13 record there were some not so great ones, maybe deservedly so. Who knows? But we just felt that maybe the way we felt it as if we had something to prove or something, if not to other people, at least to ourselves.
Yeah, if they had
so
their
we
way,
were
they would
pretty
just want
focused
you
when
to, if they had their way, they just want you to keep recording Bandwagon-esque until infinity, right? So you got to keep trying new things, throwing new things into the sound, right?
Well, absolutely, yeah. And we've always been song-based.
Sure.
So there's only so much you can do. We were never going to do anything dramatically different stylistically. But yeah, we did, that's maybe a move towards a more acoustic sound with the Grand Prix album and with the one that followed that, Songs from Northern Britain. We picked up some nice acoustic guitars, and we found a mandola, and there are maybe sort of more keyboards and things on it. And so yeah, there's definitely a broader range of instruments on that record. I think with Grand Prix, it's pretty much, electric guitar. There's some strings on there, but it's mostly electric guitar.
Sure, and as I said, it kind of felt like you guys discovered the Byrds, kind of like a California sound. I mean, you guys would always be into Big Star and that kind of thing, but this kind of had more of a Laurel Canyon, that kind of like Mamas and the Papas at some point or something.
Sure, yeah. Well, I mean, if it was unintentional, I think, that's not to say that we don't like that music, but I don't think we set out with a specific aim to make music like that. But, like I say, that's music that we are all fans of. But we probably listened to quite a lot of soul music at that time as well. I mean, I think we always have, but that's the thing. You have, as I'm sure it is with any other band, you have a number of different influences that you put into, you put into, whatever. When you're writing, you spit it out, Norman.
It's like with Bandwagon-esque, you guys have always, the C86 scene was obviously a very communal scene, but when Bandwagon-esque came out, you were in the midst of the whole grunge movement, and you didn't really fit in there. And then in 95, you were in the midst of the height of Britpop, and you didn't really fit in there. So it was kind of like you guys always did your own thing. Were you ever, pressured by the label? Hey, it's 1995. Blur and Oasis are on the top of the charts. Can you make a song like Country House, or could you bring up the Kinks influence a little more?
Right. Well, actually, funny you should talk about before we recorded Bandwagon-esque. In fact, while we were recording Bandwagon-esque, we made that record with Don Fleming. But we'd been working with Don for a few months before that. And it was actually, at that point we were listening to a lot of sort of Sonic Youth and whatever, the initial idea was to have quite an aggressive record, but Don said, look, you guys are really good at harmonies, and no one's really doing that at the moment. You should really focus on that because it would maybe make the record stand out a little more from other things that are around at the moment. And so that was really what influenced us. To make that record, like harmony based or have more harmonies there. Now, and again, when it came to the Grand Prix thing, I think we never really felt part of that because, of course, a lot of these genres are created by the British music press. They've been doing it for years. I think they still do it. But we were in Glasgow. We didn't, and the Britpop thing was really a London-centric thing. Even though Oasis were kind of at the vanguard of it, they were from Manchester. They lived in London. So it was all around the London media. So in fact, our album after Grand Prix is a little ironic. The title, "Songs from Northern Britain," was a little joke on the idea of no one would call Scotland Northern Britain. It was just a little kind of swipe at the Britpop thing. But I don't think we've ever really felt part of any particular scene. We really have always kind of just done our own thing.
That's awesome. And Teenage Fan Club is known for having the three principal songwriters. I can think of the Beatles being another one. Can you fill us in on some other bands that have three principal songwriters?
Well, I suppose we were talking about the Byrds earlier on. They had a few songwriters, didn't they?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, Gene Clark and Crosby and McGuinn or whatever, but yeah, I suppose that, let me think. Other than that, I suppose there must be loads. Must be loads of them.
There's got to be, but yeah, I mean, I've been studying up on it. I don't see that many, especially those that have been together for 25 years, like that.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think groups are always about the dynamic of between the people who are in the group. Obviously, and for some reason our dynamic and the thing that works for us is to have three songwriters. That's what everyone's comfortable with that. It's just the way we do our thing. And it's a good fit for us, and for other bands it wouldn't be. For other people, you'll have a kind of benevolent dictatorship. You'll have an artist who does all the writing, and we've always felt that having three songwriters has made our life a little bit easier. And that if you're a sole songwriter for a band, and you've been around for 20 years and you've made 10 albums, that's a lot of work, and that's. Sure. It's difficult to have a good level of consistency for any songwriter, I wouldn't envy anyone who has to do that. So we always felt that we've been quite lucky in that we've had three of us and we can sort of spread the load a little bit.
I love it. Like doing my show, I've seen all these bands with quotation marks, and you find out, hey, James Dean Bradfield is really the mastermind behind all the Manic Street Preachers music, pretty much like that.
Right, yeah,
and, Smashing Pumpkins, obviously another thing like that. And there's a lot of bands that are like that, where the one guy is really doing most of the work, the heavy lifting, and it's so refreshing to see that you guys been around so long, carrying the weight together. And has there ever been, I'm sure there's been friction between you guys. Hey, I want my song on this one, I want that song, but it's never really led to any serious infighting, right?
No, there really hasn't been very much friction at all. I don't think any of us are like that. It's not, some people thrive on confrontation and for their creativity. I suppose people always talk about Jagger and Richards, and but that doesn't work for us. Again, it's about the dynamic of the individuals and how their personalities work together. And for us, so none of us are like that. We wouldn't be like, I think we in fact now for our albums we'll write 4 songs each and we'll have 12 songs on the album, and that's just how we do it because it's that's fine. And everyone so far has been able and managed to come up with the required amount of songs. So it's but that's how it works for us. And with other situations or other bands, it would be different probably.
Yeah, it's a really different style, and it's really honorable and cool to see you guys doing it that way, having 4 songs on each album. That way you get 12, and so that's something that started even in the beginning with you guys. Way back in '89, you guys we said, hey, we're all songwriters, let's do it all together, right?
You kind of, yeah. I think the first record, because myself and Raymond had sort of formed the band from the ashes of a previous band that we were in, so we had a few songs for the first album. But yeah, by the time we got to the second album, Jerry was writing at that point too, so it didn't take long for us to establish the modus operandi.
Yeah, it's a really cool way of going about it. And yeah, you've had some famous fans over the years, your Kurt Cobains, your Liam Gallagher's. Did you ever meet Cobain or Liam? Or?
Yeah, we toured with Nirvana which was an amazing experience. We'd sort of known those guys before, but we were the opening band on the Nevermind European tour, so we knew them pretty well for a brief period of time. We were good friends. In fact, funnily enough, in May we're doing a show with Foo Fighters. Dave Grohl's asked us to come and play a festival show with them in Manchester, so we're doing that.
Awesome.
So I've not seen him for a few years, but yeah, that was an amazing thing to experience, the sort of phenomenon that was Nevermind, and just to watch that happen to a band who, when we knew them, we probably met them around the time of the Bleach record, and they were playing fairly small venues at that point, and so to watch something go from that to this, like I say, phenomenon, it was amazing to witness. And they were really nice guys, and Kurt was a really nice guy, and it's just tragic what happened to him. Really, but yeah, I have very fond memories of that period.
That's so awesome, and you guys are label mates too, right, Geffen? How was it working?
Yep.
How was it like working with Geffen Company for so long? You guys were with them for quite a bit, right?
Quite a few years, yeah. We still have some friends. There's a guy, Mark Cates, who worked in A&R at Geffen, who's still a good friend of mine. He moved back to, but he's originally from Boston, big Red Sox fan, and we worked with him in Los Angeles at that time, and we're still good friends with him. And a few people from there we've still we see from time to time. So it's we met for a big label. There there were some nice and good people working there.
Yeah, it's such a crazy change of events from the mid-'90s even till 2015. I mean, if your record label wasn't behind you 100%, then they'd kind of put you on the back burner, and that was kind of like a death knell for a lot of these bands. They'd get you for one album, and then the second album, they're not into it. Good luck with finding another record label. Now in 2015, I believe you guys are still with Merge, right?
We are, and that's been great. We've had, well, here's the thing too. We've known sort of Superchunk for many years. In fact, I think our first or second show in the US, we played at CBGB's, and it was we were on Matador at the time, and it was a Matador bill, and Superchunk were on that bill. As Superchunk, Dust Devil, Railroad Jerk, and I think Urge Overkill were on the bill too. But so we've known them since way back then, and they're great to work with. They're a fantastic label. All the people who work at that label are great, and we've just just all our experience, experiences with them have been really positive. In fact, we played down at the 25th anniversary festival just a few months back. They had in Chapel Hill. They had a 25th anniversary event over a weekend, and it was great fun.
Yeah, they're a perfect success story of what to do right in the music business. And, obviously been around for 30 years, Mac, and Superchunk, and all those. And then they win the Album of the Year in the Grammys for the Arcade Fire album, the first independent released album to get the Album of the Year. Not that the Grammys really matter that much, but it's just kind of like a badge of honor. Hey, it works.
It really is. And I suppose they're an artist-centric label because they were in a band and they are in a band. So they know how artists think, And they've got they're very respectful of artists, and they're also their deals are really good. They don't they're aware that how often artists have been ripped off by labels, and of course they never do that. The quality of the product is good. The vinyl is always good. It's so they don't skimp on making a good product and promoting the records. So we've had a great time, and of course our next record will be on Merge also.
Love it. And thanks for taking the time out. I've just got maybe one or two more questions.
Sure thing.
How about your favorite city and or venue to play in America?
Oh God, that's a tough one. I don't know. Favorite city. I don't really know, to be honest with you. I think there's so many good places, so many different kind of places. That's the thing about the US. You can be in the same country, but places can feel very different, whether that be climate or whatever. So,
Sure, from the south to like Maine or somewhere else like the Pacific Northwest, it feels like different countries, pretty much.
It really does, and so a lot of these shows that I've done with the fan club have been great. But actually, I did a very small tour, myself and Joe Pernice, last year. And we did a little sort of tour of New England, and that was really enjoyable because I got to places, Portsmouth, for example, that I would never get to or never have. And that was really good, to sort of do that. So, but I'm trying to think of places that. Just lots of great places. Sorry, it's a real cop out of an answer there, but I can't really. I'm trying to think of anything.
Get on my good side and say Chicago.
Well, the Metro, we did good shows at the Metro in the past, they were always. But and of course we do. I think because we recorded in Chicago, we spent some time there, so we do feel a bit of an affinity with the city. But that's just because we sort of know our way around it a little more than other places, I suppose.
I love it. I'd love to visit Glasgow. I've heard great things about that. And speaking of Dave Grohl and company, they did that whole Sonic Highways thing on HBO, which was a great tour documentary thing, going and recording in a different city in a different studio every episode. And I just got word that they got greenlit for the next season, which will be in Great Britain. And I think Glasgow should definitely be a stop for Dave Grohl and the boys. So. Yeah,
I've got a feeling they'll do one there, but I'd heard that also that they were going to do the UK, so that'll be great, and I'm sure they will stop in Glasgow. I mean, they have some connections, obviously Dave does, but knows Eugene Kelly from the Vaselines, and they were obviously important in the Nirvana story. So there's no doubt in my mind that they'll get there at some point.
How about like Bobby Gillespie and Primal Scream? Were those guys close to you, or was that just people from the same city as you?
No, Bobby's a good friend of mine. I haven't seen him for a while, but the Primal Scream guys all moved to London, probably 20 years ago or something. But no, they were a big part of the Glasgow scene. Bobby had a club called Splash One, named after the 13th Floor Elevator song, which a lot of people went to, and a lot of people in the Glasgow scene would hang around that club from the members of the Pastels, and and the Jesus and Mary chain. All of these people would be kind of, and Alan McGee, of course, was involved there too. So, yeah, they're like I say, very important in the formative years of the what is now the sort of Glasgow independent music scene.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty close-knit scene. And, one more question from another one of those Halcyon 1991 albums, like your Screamadelicas, like your Neverminds, like your Bandwagon-esque. What is the backstory behind Alcoholiday? One of my favorites.
Oh, right. I mean, there isn't really much of a backstory, to be honest with you, other than it's an awful pun. But no, that was just one of the songs that we had. We'd been sort of, I think that maybe had a song that I'd written for the previous band that I was in, the band called the Boy Hairdressers, but it had never been quite finished.
It seems like the aftermath of a terrible breakup, but maybe that it was a couple years before the recording of the album. That
you know, it kind of was, and you know, they kind of it's lost in the mists of time. The story, because you know. I actually don't think it's even about a specific relationship. It's about a number of different relationships over the course of my, well, you know, an adolescent, teenager, kind of a number of relationships. So
every teenager, pretty much.
Exactly. There's an amalgamation of a number of different tragic events in my life.
I got you. Nice. That's an awesome note to end on. You got the new album coming out this fall. Check out more info at teenagefanclub.com. Follow on Twitter. It's Norman Blake or Teenage Fan Club at Twitter. And, just want to thank you so much. Your big influence on my life. The music stands the test of time like nothing else. Thanks so much. Any last words, Norman?
No. It's just been nice chatting with you, Andy, and I appreciate you giving me the time.
Awesome. Sounds so good. And on behalf of Norman Blake, this is Andy signing off for the Andy Darer Show. And the number one highest downloaded episode of the year so far is Curious Minds with special guest Chris Conley. Hey everybody, thank you so much for checking out the Andy Darer Show. This is episode 133. I am joined by a Chicago rock icon, Chris Conley. How you doing, buddy?
I'm fine, thanks very much. How are you?
I'm doing well, yes.
Nice to talk to you again.
Yeah, it's nice to talk again. I guess it was back in 2011. Me and my buddy from the Fleecast, we took a recorder and went to Reckless and did a little interview with you and Matt and Emily from Implodes. Thank you so much for opening up the doors to the office and just having a chat with us. That was cool.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah, I mean, we just talked about your whole career, kind of, but I think that interview's actually been lost in the ethers, which I guess 2011, his laptop froze or something like that. Nowadays, I put everything on YouTube. I put everything, so even if the computer breaks, it's out there somewhere. So,
right.
This won't be going into the ethers anytime soon. You've been being quite busy with your Bowie band, Sons of the Silent Age. How's that going for you?
It's going great. We all love doing it. I don't know how much you want to know about that, but we started it about 2 years ago, and we started it to myself and Matt Walker started it mostly, 100% because we just loved that music and wanted to play it.
Sure.
For fun, which is the reason we still. I mean, it's really fun. It's a challenge, and there's a lot of material to choose from, and it pushes some boundaries with us as musicians. So, that's what it's all about.
Yeah, I believe I was at the first ever Chicago show at the Metro. Probably about 2 years ago this month, I think. And Shirley Manson of Garbage. I guess an old school friend of yours came out and did a couple songs. That was one of the best versions of Heroes I've ever. If not, I've never seen Bowie live, so that was the best version of Heroes I'd ever seen. It was pretty mind blowing.
Thank you.
How long? How did you meet Shirley? And how you said it's been a long time you've been friends, right?
Yeah, we've been friends for 30 years. I met her when I was, I think she was probably 18, I was probably 18, but we were both very much part of the Edinburgh music scene, and we met each other because we were both recruited to be runway models in a fashion show.
Oh, really? Okay.
And we became fast friends at that time, like immediately, and we've been that way ever since.
So this is taking it all the way back to early 80s, right?
Yeah.
This is before you came to the States, before Ministry, before all that stuff, right?
Before the internet, before digital cameras.
Before the Feeney Tribe, too? Yeah.
No, the Feeney Tribe was... that was the band I started when I was in secondary school in Edinburgh. I mean, that started in 1980. You know, that's 35 years old now. Since I started that, that will always be my first love.
So was that Village growing up, is it like a small enough scene where everybody kind of knew each other, knew what was going on, what bands were cool and stuff? Is that, was it kind of a small town, or?
Edinburgh is a small town, but it's a very big town as well. I mean, it's the capital city of Edinburgh. But yes, everybody knew each other's business, and I don't mean that in a good way at all. It was very... It was a very bitchy and very incestuous scene. The Finney tribe were always outsiders.
Sure.
And Shirley had a band called Goodbye Mr. Mackenzie, who we were friends with, but they were very different from us. And she never spoke nicely about her band to me.
Never.
Oh, we're rubbish. Your band's much better than mine. But you know, there was a lot of backstabbing in Edinburgh between the bands. I'm sure it's the same these days. I'm just too old to do it.
Is it the type of thing where you guys would all backstab each other and try to get people to each other's shows, but then at the end of the night you'd be having a pint and enjoying each other's company, or was it all just?
No, we're far too snobby for that. We
Nice.
elitist little snobs. Make no doubt about it. We were the worst. I mean, not me personally, just everybody in a band in Edinburgh was the worst.
Sure.
You know, and that's that.
Nice, but going back to the Bowie tribute band, how about your first memory listening to a Bowie song? What era was it?
Starman.
Nice.
Ziggy Stardust. I remember hearing it first on a radio. Someone was playing a radio in a park. It was summer, and I was in Glasgow where my grandmother and grandfather lived. And I really loved the song, but I remember seeing him on Top of the Pops as well, doing it, and I was really too young to understand it, but I really loved that song, you know.
Just as
I must have been 7 or 8.
Just as an image of a man, it must have just caught your fancy and just saying, what am I seeing here? This is something we weren't seeing in the 60s. This is a complete new glam look going on. And then, obviously, the chameleon of music, pretty much switching up styles every couple years, releasing multiple albums every year. How about a favorite era of all the eras that he's had? Should I assume it's the Berlin era, since you guys are called Sons of the Silent Age? Or?
My favorite record is Station to Station.
Okay, nice.
So there you go. That's kind of like a transitional record between the Plastic Soul period of Young Americans and the returning to Europe. I think that album pretty much has everything that I need in terms of imagery and intrigue in a David Bowie record.
And he gets it all done within six songs, right? Yeah.
Precisely, and economy as well, you know.
It's beautiful. Were you always a fan? Did you ever fall off of his music in the 80s when a lot of bands were just having trouble, you know, staying cutting edge, and with the MTV coming out, it was, should I keep going with what I want to do, or should I try to, you know, find a new audience with the kids watching MTV? Did you ever fall off of Bowie's music?
I did, because, I mean, I always loved the records that went up to that period, but I didn't like the album last. I thought it was weak, and I thought, you know, compared to, and at that time I was definitely not a person who listened to pop music.
Sure.
That was, you know, not in my purview. You know, in hindsight, I think Dance is not, it's not as strong a pop record as many pop records were out at that time.
Sure.
You know, there's some songs that are just, you know, they're just not that great, but the song Let's Dance, I think, is fantastic, but
nice.
And there's definitely some moments on that record, but that's when I, you know, compared to Scary Monsters, it just wasn't doing it for me. And, I mean, I don't think it was maybe doing it for him either, you know, but he sold tons of records, and that's great.
Exactly, and then he would pull through, and then in the 90s, it almost seemed like he's catching up to something that you know about, the industrial music movement, kind of, you know, with Trent Reznor, the early Ministry sounds and stuff, with his, you know, Earthling album and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it was kind of cool that he kind of caught up to your guys' scene a little bit. But as you said, in the 80s, pop was not anything you were interested in. And
No.
if you read your book, Concrete, Bulletproof, Invisible, and Fried, My Life as a Revolting Cock, which, you just did a second pressing of, right?
Yeah.
You just go into vivid detail about the entire decade of the 80s, what you went through, all these turbulent times, but beautiful times as well. What's for the new edition, for my listeners, what can they expect if they've already read the first edition?
Well, the new edition is the same as the old edition, except it has color photographs.
Nice.
And it has a new forward and a new afterword. So there's also an audio version, which I highly recommend, and I read that.
Nice, that's awesome. I really enjoyed the book. I actually bought multiple copies back when I did that interview
Thank
with
you.
you, and gave it as a wedding present to my cousin. She loved it. It was just a great read. Your old bandmate Al Jorgensen also released a book last year, kind of threw you under the bus, but on your book, you've always stayed kind of classy with it. You guys were not really ever that close, but you took the high road with your book, and he took the low road. And but those records that you did with Ministry, out of those, what is it, the 3 albums you did?
Yeah.
3 albums. How about like your favorite track that kind of that you're still proud of to this day?
Well, the one I had the most to do with was "The Mind Is a Terrible Thing to Take."
Nice.
And I think that the song "So What" I'm still very proud of. I think that that's a good song, but there's a lot of lyrics on that record I'm proud of. Though Al tried to maintain 20 years later that I didn't write any of that, but
Nice.
what are you going to do?
But that's cool. Like I was just thinking about how So What, you guys were playing around with hip hop rhythms, almost spitting lyrics. You guys were right in the middle point of his early, kind of Euro pop, almost new romantic sound, and what he was doing in the 90s and 2010s, which for me is just like a machine gun thrash metal assault that doesn't have that personality of those albums that you worked on, where you guys were just throwing everything into a Cuisinart and just throw a little industrial, little hard rock, a little bit of hip hop, all this stuff, mixing it up beautifully. And I think is Ministry's best period,
Well, yeah, there wasn't any rules at that point. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we didn't have an agenda. Certainly with "The Mind Is a Terrible Thing to Taste," we had not a clue what we were going to do when we came into the studio. Not a clue. And that's why it's eclectic like that. And I've said this before, I don't think that's necessarily a great thing. I mean, there was a lack of focus, but it worked out in the end. And I think that the band on that record, a great band, it's the best lineup that he ever had.
Sure.
Because we were curious and we were interested and we had technology and we had curious minds and we wanted to do something we always wanted to do something that was groundbreaking, but then that stopped, and it wasn't groundbreaking. When something stops being groundbreaking, I walk away.
I got you.
Because it's fine to not be groundbreaking for other people, but I have to be groundbreaking all the time.
Yeah, and then
even if it's only in my own living room, I have to think I'm breaking ground somewhere.
Yeah, and then he put out the Filth Pig album, and it was just dirges, and it was just all heroin music, and it was just, I don't know, it lost that fun that you guys were having fun with in 89, 90, 91, and those
Exactly,
years.
it was
and,
fun.
Yeah.
You're right. It was a lot of fun, and there was a lot of nice surprises. It was great working with Bill Reefan and Paul Barker.
Nice.
Always up for a laugh. There was no substances in that relationship. It was all about curiosity and just exploring sound, really.
That's beautiful. And then, after you'd split ways with them, I've always wanted to ask you about this at the record store, but I don't want to bug you. Murder, Inc., the time you got to front Killing Joke. I tell people about that all the time. They're like, you're just making that up. I'm like, go look it up on allmusic.com. He fronted Killing Joke. And then to make it even more near and dear to my heart, Steve Albini recorded it.
Yeah.
Love that album. Love that reissue that you guys put out. How was that, recording that one?
That was really great. It was everything I did sort of from the period of 1987 to 1993 was always turbulent. There was always something awful going on in my life or surrounding the band, you know.
Sure.
But we recorded this at a studio which is in Cannon Falls, Minnesota, where Nevermind was, not Nevermind, I think In Utero was recorded there.
Sure, Pachyderm.
And so we were in the middle of the countryside, and there was nothing to disturb us. There was no distractions. There was no distractions. We had to have someone come to the studio every day with our supply of beer and pot or whatever it is we were doing. I don't remember. And the guys worked on it during the day. I didn't really work with them lyrically on the day. I would pop in and out, and I would take there was a bicycle, I'd take my notebook and I'd cycle off and I would write lyrics, and then I would come back at night and I'd record just me and Steve alone, and it was really good fun recording with Steve because he kept making me try these mad things, like, well, we'll do this vocal on your back. We had this book, I think we had this book of the Abbey Road Beatles recording sessions, and John Lennon used to try all these crazy things, like recording upside down and stuff like that.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, yeah. So Steve made me do all this kind of stuff. Like, I remember one night he got a board and put it on some bricks, and it was wobbly, and he made me sing the lead vocal to, I can't remember what song, Red Black maybe, and he had me jump up and down on this wooden board on top of bricks, so it just went thump, thump, thump the whole time.
Wow.
To get a sort of violence into the sound.
That's really cool.
Yeah, and you had two amazing drummers, Martin Atkins and Paul Ferguson, playing together at the same time. That was a first, and it was really awesome. I wish that band had continued, but I can't remember why it didn't.
Yeah, that was 93, you're saying? Or?
No, that was 1991.
Oh, okay.
Sure. That was right before the second Pigface tour. It was between the first Pigface tour and the second Pigface tour. I was really busy back then.
And you were obviously aware who Val Beanie was because of the Surfer Rosa and stuff, and Big Black. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I mean, these bands were huge in Britain before I came to the States. Big Black and Rape Man. Very, very, very hip bands.
That's weird. I wouldn't think of that. I would have thought them as more of a regional act, but they were already making a buzz across the pond, huh?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, they were quite a sensation in the UK. I mean, on an independent label,
sure. In the Melody Maker and stuff like that, or yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was the level of they were about the same as Sonic Youth and the Swans, who were like the crown princes of music at that time in the UK.
Yeah, we asked him for an interview about 3 years ago, and everybody's like, no way in hell you'll get an interview with him. I was picturing him being the Darth Vader of indie rock, with his rules and his regulations. And then he goes, no, get over here. We'll do it. I was like, we'll do a phoner? No, get in the electrical audio. We'll do this in person. We brought our Tascam 4-track. He laughed and thought that was funny. He couldn't have been more of a funny, down-to-earth guy, just eating animal crackers and answering our questions. And then
no, he's a nice guy. He gets a bad reputation, but I've always got along. He's got a very acerbic wit for sure, but who doesn't love that?
And then I loved when I was hearing about Sonic Highways, the big Foo Fighters documentary series, and they said, oh yeah, Steve Albini gets a little shine in the Chicago episode. And then I go, oh, they'll give him about 25 seconds, 30 seconds. He got like 15 minutes of that thing, and I'm sure Electrical Audio's phone's been ringing. I'm sure he's been getting some business off of people that have just seen that and want a piece of Chicago history by recording with him and stuff.
Yeah.
So that's really cool, though. I heard that you were just finishing up a new album.
Yeah, it is done. It took a long time. But it's done, and it's all mastered and ready to go.
Nice. You work with Matt Walker again, right?
I do.
Nice.
He produced it, and we started it a while back, but he's busy too. He was on tour for a lot of the year with Morrissey, and but he mixed the record on the road, like on the bus and in the hotel rooms, and
Really? Huh.
yeah, he finished the record in Serbia.
Nice. Not a lot of records been finished in Serbia, but that's pretty cool. Do you have
I'm very proud that mine has.
Do you have a working title, or do you have a title, or what's...
It's self-titled. It's just
Really?
called Chris Connolly. Yeah.
That's awesome. When can we expect that to be released?
April.
April. Awesome. What label are we talking?
Cleopatra.
Cleopatra. Where are they out of?
They're out of LA.
Okay, cool. And what kind of styles are we going to be looking for on this one?
It's very, how to describe, I think it's very cinematic sounding. I think it's very widescreen sounding. It's very noirish.
Nice.
Yeah, there's also a lot of guest vocalists on it. There's 5 different female vocalists who sing with me on it. Very eclectic. So there's a few duets on there,
Oh, that's awesome. Is Shirley on
Yeah.
there or no?
Shirley's not on there. She couldn't do it, unfortunately. Not because she didn't want to. She just couldn't. But
Gotcha.
there are 2 other Scottish singers on there. I don't know if you remember Leslie Rankin, who's Ruby.
Ruby.
Do you ever-
Okay,
Yes.
I do remember that. Okay, awesome.
Okay, so she's on it, and also an actress, singer called Rebecca Pigeon,
Nice.
who's from Edinburgh. She's on it as well.
Really cool. Well, I want to let you go. I just got one more question. Just thanks for taking
Yeah.
the time out. Reckless Records, they can find you. You're a manager at Reckless Records. I love the place. I probably spend over $10,000 there, and really cool. Are you still there?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just really cool seeing when I go in there and it's just packed with younger people. They're all back into vinyl, which I would never have expected that 15 years ago. But yes, I go in there quite a bit. It's always packed. I love Record Store Day. That's just a madhouse. I was there for Kim and Kelly Deal last year. Just selling vinyl hand over fist, and it's a great thing to see. Reckless Records, probably my favorite record store in the Chicago area.
Thank you.
Yeah, check it out. You've got autographed copies of your book there. Go check it out.
I do, yeah.
And a new album out in April, self-titled
Out in
Chris
April.
Connolly. Any last words, Chris?
No, thank you for talking to me. It was a real pleasure.
Awesome. Sounds good.
Say
Bye.
hi the next time you come through, all right?
Oh, I will definitely, Chris. Thanks for taking
All
the time
right.
out. And on behalf of Chris Connolly, this is Andy signing off for the Andy Darer Show. Be sure to follow Andy on Twitter. That's at Andy Darer. And like our show on Facebook. That's facebook.com/The Andy Darer Show. Videos at youtube.com/Andrew Martin Darer. And we're on iTunes. Just search The Andy Darer Show. Please leave a review. Thanks so much to our wonderful sponsors, Uncle Bub's award-winning barbecue, Record Utopia, The Man Great, and Amazon.com. Theme song courtesy of Rich Banks Music. Thank you so much for checking out The Andy Darer Show. TheAndyDareShow.com.